I want to go back real quick to the Kumi Ori farm that asked about, did your children share their opinions on the various church options? If we didn't have kids, we would have been happy to sit on Shabbat and have a couple other couples over and open the Bible and read the passage. We could have had 6 people sitting around our table, or 4 other people sitting around our table reading the Bible. We would have been just fine. That would have been great fellowship for me and my wife. My kids were happy at the Presbyterian church. But we realized that there were some theological issues that were going to be problems. And every single week, we talked about communion, and what we believe, or we talked about, there were other issues that we would, on the way home from church, we would talk to our kids about, why do we agree with this? And, what about what the pastor said here? Because the nice thing about that church was that the kids stayed in the main teaching.
Right. Yep.
And so they were listening with us. And so there was always this discussion of, well, the pastor said this. Did you hear that? What do you think about this? So once again, teaching moments. And I think my kids would have been happy to stay there, but we decided that it wasn't right for us. And so once again, the kids were almost steering that the whole time. And the reason why is because if it wasn't for my kids, could I have overlooked the theological issues? And people who listen to this show regularly know that I was really battling with the idea of communion every week and their view of communion, the idea of means of grace, that the communion was a means of grace. I had really, really hard time with that. And if it wasn't for my kids, I think my wife and I could have said, hey, we'll just not partake of the Lord's Supper with them, as it's called, and we'll just put our heads down and grin and bear it. But because of our kids, we thought, no, we can't. We need to be somewhere else. So once again, did my kids have a say? Absolutely, they had a say. But ultimately, we needed to do what was right for the children, and we needed to be somewhere where the kids were not being, where the objections to our theology were manageable and were not being like a slow drip every single week, right?
I love how you just put that, where the objections are manageable. And that also is going to be unique to each person, because like what Caleb's saying, maybe if it was just him and his wife, they could navigate a different kind of territory. But when he's got a whole fleet of ships with him, these little kids, he's not just thinking about what he can navigate, but what his family as a whole can navigate. And that's why, again, back to prayer and evaluating, some people move because they, need to get that fellowship. But I've known people who have moved for a false teacher.
Right.
So there you have people who are so zealous and ready to
yes.
give up, sell everything and follow the Lord kind of thing. And it's just, but there's no wisdom. It's like all zeal, and it's like, wow, I've seen that crash and burn. And it's like, wow.
I think a lot of people who listen to this show a lot know that there's not a filter between this and this. If it comes into here, it's coming out of here within half a second, right? And it gets me into trouble a whole lot. And I'm working on that. I have a wife who's extremely patient.
There's some Bible verses for Caleb.
Yeah, there are. And I've been working really hard on trying to be not as combative and to not as, really, just try to be a lot more loving. And my wife is just so good at that. She's really a blessing when it comes to that. And the fact is that going into, if you're going to go for the option of going to a Christian church on Sunday, you have to lead with love. You cannot lead with being combative. You have to try to realize these people
look for
are
good
brothers.
fruit. That's what you were saying about listening to a sermon. It's like, you know what? there might be a bunch of flags of easy things I could criticize, but I'm listening for, does this guy really walk with Yeshua? Like he spent some time on the scriptures preparing for this. If he has nothing if there's nothing substantive here, it would be a surprise. And so I love to hear that about you, Caleb, that you're going in and you're leading with love. You're seeking signs of hope for connection, for relating with other believers, for being part of something God's doing locally. I think all those things are good things to be on the lookout for.
Continue listening to this conversation by clicking the full show link on the left side of your screen, or check out the video on the right that YouTube thinks you'll like. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you never miss content from Messiah Matters.